Grace woke up that morning with a wild smile on her face. Today is going to be a good day, she whispered to herself. After preparing a large pot of freshly made noodles, she carried it to the village market as she did every morning. By the time she arrived at her store, hungry customers were already waiting. Mothers stood in line, eager to buy her noodles for their children before school. Grace's noodles were no ordinary meal. They had a taste that pulled people in like magic, and the aroma could be smelled from far away. For many in the village, a day without Grace's noodles felt incomplete. But behind the delicious taste and the irresistible smell was a dark and terrible secret. At night, when the village was quiet and everyone was asleep, Grace prepared her noodles in secret. This was the perfect time to perform her strange rituals without anyone noticing. She would stir the pot with care, then add worms taken from dead animals and even human bodies. These worms, infused with her dark magic, gave her noodles the taste that enchanted the villagers. But there was a deadly price. Each worm carried a poison that attacked the intestine of whoever ate it, slowly draining their strength and making them weaker every day. Children who ate Grace's noodles grew faster than their age and became rebellious towards their parents. Strangely, they only obeyed Grace. Parents quickly learned that the only way to control their children was to mention Grace's name. If you don't behave, I'll tell Grace, they would warn, and the children would immediately stop misbehaving. No one asked why. No one questioned it. Grace had become too beloved. Her business grew quickly, and soon she opened several more shops across the village. The more wealth she gathered, the weaker the villagers became. Still, they adored her. On days she didn't come to the markets, they begged and quarreled among themselves. Everything seemed perfect for Grace until one woman began to suspect the truth. Her name was Amelia, a hardworking widow with 2 children. Ever since her husband died, she had been the sole provider for her family. Amelia was different. From the other villagers, she rarely ate food from outside and had taught her children the importance of eating only homemade meals. But Amelia was observant. She noticed how strange things had become. Strong farmers could no longer work in the fields. Instead, they spent the day at Grace's store, eating noodles from morning till night. Children had changed too, growing unnaturally fast, disobedient to their parents, but strangely loyal to Grace. Amelia's heart grew heavy with suspicion. Something wasn't right. One evening, as she watched the villagers gather once again around Grace's steaming pot of noodles, she made a firm decision. She would find out the truth behind Grace's food, no matter the cost. The next morning, Amelia walked straight to Grace's stall, determined to uncover the truth for herself. She demanded a plate of noodles, but to her surprise, Grace refused. "The noodles are finished, madam," Grace snapped. "I only serve my best customers. Please leave." Her voice was sharp, her eyes filled with suspicion. Amelia said nothing, but inside, she knew Grace was hiding something. Refusing her meant only one thing. Grace already suspected that she was watching her, but Amelia was not the kind of woman to give up easily. For months, Grace continued feeding the villagers her enchanted noodles, while their bodies grew weaker and their children more rebellious. Finally, Amelia decided it was time to act. That night, she waited patiently until Grace closed her store and went home. Then, hiding carefully behind the bushes, Amelia followed her. She had learned spiritual practices from her late husband, who had once been the village herbalist, so she knew the signs of witchcraft and the hours of ritual. At exactly midnight, Amelia saw Grace leaving her house, carrying a black nylon bag. Silently, Amelia trailed her into the thick forest, the place where dead animals and human bodies were sometimes dumped. There, in the pale light of the moon, Grace knelt on the ground and began snooping fat, wriggling worms from the corpses into her bag. Some were already decayed, their stench heavy in the air. Amelia's stomach twisted, but she kept watching. When Grace had gathered enough worms, she returned home. Amelia crept behind her and crouched outside the window. Through a small creek, she saw Grace pour the worms into a calabash, sprinkle strange oil on them, and then stir them into a pot of steaming noodles. Amelia covered her mouth in horror. The truth she had feared was real. This was Grace's secret. That night, Amelia did not sleep. She kept turning the matter in her mind. The villagers were under Grace's spell, blind to her evil, and it would not be easy to convince them she needed help. The next morning, Amelia went to see Okeke, an old friend of her late husband. Okeke was wise and cautious, a man who did not eat Grace's noodles, even though his family did. Years ago, he had even warned them after having a terrible dream about her. "Welcome, my daughter," Okeke said as Amelia entered his house. "What troubles you this morning?" "My heart is heavy," Amelia replied, her voice trembling. "This village is in danger." "What do you mean? Speak clearly." Amelia took a deep breath and told him everything she had seen. Okeke listened in silence, his face growing darker with every word. "No wonder I dreamed of her," he said at last. "I should have known. Grace is a dangerous woman, and if we do not act quickly, the king himself will soon marry her. If that happens, this village is lost forever." Amelia frowned. "But why? What does she stand to gain?" Okeke shook his head. "I do not know. But one thing is certain, we must expose her." That night, Okeke gathered a few trusted men from the community. Together, they went to Grace's house, hiding in the shadows, and just as Amelia had said, they saw it with their own eyes. Grace preparing her cursed noodles with worms and oil, chanting softly as she stared. The men were horrified. Now they had proof. At dawn, Amelia, Okeke, and the others stormed into the marketplace, where villagers were already lining up at Grace's stall. "Do you people know what you are eating?" Amadi shouted, his voice thundering across the square. The crowd froze. Grace's heart jumped in her chest. She knew her secret was out. Quickly, she tried to close her pot and run, but the men caught her and tied her hands. Okeke raised his voice again. "This woman has been feeding us worms. She has bewitched the whole village, draining our strength while she grows richer." The villagers gasped. Slowly, the spell began to break from their eyes. Some of them rushed to find sticks and stones, ready to beat Grace to death. But Okeke stopped them. "No," he said. "There is a better way." Amelia stepped forward with the small flask of spiritual oil left by her husband. She poured a drop onto Grace's forehead. To everyone's horror, Grace's skin wrinkled instantly, and before their eyes, she transformed into an old woman. "She's a witch!" a woman screamed. The crowd stumbled back in fear. Suddenly, Grace laughed a bitter, chilling laugh. "You fools," she spat. "Do you think this will stop me? You all will pay for what you did to my family. I will not rest until this entire village is destroyed." Okeke's face hardened. "Explain yourself," and Grace did. Years ago, her father had been falsely accused of sleeping with the queen. His only crime was challenging the king after the king forcefully took his land. The king condemned him to death, and the villagers, out of fear, stoned him without mercy. Grace had been only a child, watching helplessly as her father cried out, ignored by all. She had run away that day, vowing vengeance. In another village, she sought out a powerful herbalist who gave her the dark knowledge she used to return, disguise herself, and destroy the community from within. The worms gave her power while weakening everyone else, and her plan was to become a queen so she could kill the king and rule the land. The villagers were shocked. Anger drained from their faces, replaced with guilt and shame. Amelia moved with compassion, knelt beside Grace. "I understand your pain. What was done to your father was evil. But this is not the way. You have gone too far." For the first time, Grace's laughter stopped. Her eyes softened, though her body remained frail and bitter. Word of the events quickly reached the king. When he heard the story, he was struck with guilt. He summoned Grace to the palace. There, before the entire court, he admitted the wrongdoing of the past and begged her forgiveness. He offered her land, servants, and riches, urging her to let go of the curse she had placed on the people. At first, Grace refused, but as the days passed, her heart began to change. Years of anger had drained her spirit, and for the first time, she tasted peace through forgiveness. In the end, Grace lifted the curse from the village. The people slowly regained their strength, the children returned to their true selves, and life in the community flourished again. Grace lived quietly after that, away from the market and the palace. 1 year later, she passed away in her sleep, finally at rest. Moral of the story: hatred and revenge may burn for years, but only forgiveness can bring peace to the soul. Thank you so much for watching this chilling story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more mysterious and thrilling tales. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload, and drop your thoughts in the comments. What lesson did you learn from Grace's story? Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.